How to argue with someone who won't listen. Have you ever had an argument with someone where you felt you were saying all the right things and making valid points, yet they still won't change their mind? Does it feel like they aren't even listening and are more focused on saying their piece than hearing yours? I think we all have. If you consider yourself a logical person, you probably know how frustrating it can be to argue with someone who won't use their logic because they are too busy dealing with all the emotions they are feeling in the moment. But perhaps the issue itself is not with the person you are arguing with, but rather, with your way of presenting the information to them. To understand how to argue with someone that feels like a brick wall, one must first unpack a few key concepts about what goes on when you are engaging in argumentative civil discourse. Understanding these concepts will change your perception of what is going on when you cannot seem to get through to someone, and also how to be more effective in conveying your compelling arguments. Hello and welcome to Steel Mentality, where future billionaires come to get inspired. Here we talk about business, entrepreneurship, personal development, psychology, money, success, and much more. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're interested and activate the notification bell. We publish every weekend one video to help you become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to download your ebook How to Get Any Woman You Desire, even if you're shy, unattractive, out of shape, in the description below. Incongruent beliefs and actions. Can you think of someone, maybe even yourself, whose beliefs and actions don't line up? This is a great question to ask yourself. Are my actions in line with my beliefs? If they aren't, this activity could be very helpful. It can be embarrassing when someone else points it out, but when you point it out in yourself, you are more open to change and accept the reality of things. Let's take a basic example. I might have the belief that video games are a waste of time and that they get in the way of my desire of starting my own business and being successful. Yet, with that belief and desire, I continue to play video games for hours at a time and get sucked into them. I might then try to change my belief and say, that wasn't a waste of time, I needed time to relax. I wouldn't be able to succeed in starting a business anyways. The action of me playing video games for hours has already happened. I can't go back and reverse that action, so, to reduce the dissonance between my actions, beliefs, and desires, I change my beliefs. I'm not saying that this is the best thing to do, because otherwise, you might not change behaviors that you should change. A better thing to do is to just come to terms with the fact that you did an action that is not in line with your beliefs and desires and use it as a learning experience. Don't continue with logical arguments. Sometimes people will refuse to accept logical arguments because that means that they will then have to make sense of the fact that they believed a different way or that their actions weren't in line with the logic presented. They might then try to explain or justify their side in irrational ways. This pushes them even deeper into their rationalities. If the person you are communicating with is deep in this state, the worst thing to do is to continue with logical arguments. They will just continue to go the opposite direction and further ingrain the beliefs and actions they have in their head. They get into a defensive mode and might view you as being on the offense, or in other letters, offensive. Instead of continuing with logic, you need to take some time and allow the other person to get into a better headspace where they are more open to change. Below are 5 key points to remember when communicating with someone who won't listen to logic. 2. Re-establish rapport. People aren't going to trust you or want to listen to you if you don't have a good rapport with them. You want to make sure that there are mutual respect and understanding between both of you. A great way to reverse an argument that is getting heated and get that rapport re-established is through humor. 3. Crack a joke that isn't offensive. When someone is in a state of cognitive dissonance during an argument, it is kind of like they are holding up a shield to prevent other views from coming in. They are trapped behind that shield and will be as long as you are perceived as a threat that will challenge their beliefs and thoughts. They might physically start to close off by bringing their arms in and rolling their shoulders forward. Lighten the mood and crack a joke, and I'm not talking about lame knock jokes. Say something that might catch them off guard in a funny way. Anything to get them to laugh. If they can laugh around you, they will let down their guard and feel a connection with you. You will be seen as less of a threat. Once you establish rapport and can get through to them, you want to make sure to keep the progress that was made. Remember these 3 crucial things below, for don't rub your win in their face. You want the other person to feel good about any change that they have to their way of thinking and understanding. Just because you had the realization or belief first, doesn't make you any better or superior to the other person. So probably not a good idea to say something like, "See, I told you so. I'm always right." If it felt like a victory to you to help the other person understand your logic, then it is a victory for them too. You both won. 5. Allow time for them to live out their new values. Once the other person has these newly established values, don't expect them to just change immediately. Imagine someone who has convinced themselves that they can smoke every day and live a long, healthy life. Once he realizes that he's not an exception or immune to the damages of smoking, he might set goals to stop smoking. He may even quit cold turkey. However, you could probably expect him to go through the pain of withdrawal, and he may need a little bit of time to change that habit. 6. Don't hold past inconsistencies over them. The actions that you made in the past no longer exist. The past you doesn't exist anymore. Same with other people. It can be really easy to notice and point out different inconsistencies from their past because they have already happened. Avoid saying things like, "Now don't make the same mistake you made last time." You don't need to remind them of the mistakes they made before. Don't give them a bad label based on their past selves. Sometimes that is hard because that might be all you know. Labeling people a certain way only makes it easier for them to identify with that label. They might abandon their new belief just to be consistent with their old selves. Now let's talk about some different signs that you might observe from someone who is in a state of cognitive dissonance. 7. Being stunned by new info without adjusting perspective. Maybe you said something that the other person hasn't heard before. You brought up a very good and logical point. The other person might be in a scramble for words and not know what to say. Someone who is open to new ideas and is willing to change if those new ideas make more sense would probably say something like, "That's a good point, I hadn't thought of that before." They might even follow it up with a question. But they will show interest and you will see that things are connecting for them. However, someone who is closed off and won't listen to logic will hear what you said but disregard it. They won't allow it to challenge their own knowledge with the idea that it is possibly right. You might not even be right. You may very well be wrong. Keep that in mind. The other person won't even be willing to look at things from a different perspective and try to see what you are seeing. This might be a defense mechanism that protects them from the challenge of their thoughts and changes in their beliefs and habits. 8. Can't summarize the other perspective accurately. It is easy to hear and listen to things that support your way of thinking. It feeds your ego and will even give you a dopamine boost. On the other hand, when we hear things that are in contrast to our beliefs, we might mentally shut them out. It's the easy way to do it. We don't have to challenge our beliefs this way. Now we don't always do this, but you might do it more than you think. Do you ever go and watch a video that supports the politician that you don't want to be in office? You probably don't want to try to see the other side's perspective, so this lack of effort to try and see the other person's side leads to a lack of understanding. Therefore, when the other person is asked to summarize, they can't. Now, this doesn't always mean that they are in a state of cognitive dissonance. They could have just been distracted. 9. Assuming the other side has bad intentions. A sure sign that someone is closed off to what you are saying is when they just assume that your intentions are bad. This can be hard to deal with sometimes. You might just be trying to give the best solution to a problem and the other person might say something that makes it seem like there is a different underlying reason why you are arguing a certain position. Maybe it's because your position on the subject is different than theirs. 10. Regularly adjusting criteria in which they judge an argument. Well, wait, you said once pigs fly, then this would be a good solution. We just saw a pig fly and now you're saying when the earth starts spinning the other way then it would be a good solution. Just a silly made-up example of what this would look like. If someone is constantly adjusting the criteria, they probably haven't given your position a fair listen, or they probably don't know much about the topic at hand and are choosing a position that is opposite of yours for some reason. Maybe they don't like you. Sorry, thank you for taking the time to watch this video and I hope you found it interesting. If you have any comments or feedback regarding this video, please leave a comment below. We love to hear from our subscribers as it helps us create new content.